Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, this is the fourth time we've been able to attend this leading conference on our business event in Baltic region and discuss the details of our commercial relationship. During the previous years, we already had a chance to speak on ample opportunities and challenges that rapidly growing China market could offer to many European companies, as well as on the ways to stimulate Chinese investments in Baltics. But it is clear that there are many more topics we could discuss, and I'm really pleased to be able to do it today here, and I'm very thankful for the invitation that was given to me. Our relationship, our economic relationship between Estonia and China are stable, with trade volumes growing to raise, but I mean the numbers are still, well, they are okay, but they are not very high, I would say. There is a lot of untapped potential between our trade and in goods and services. This was particularly in subject for discussion at the fruitful meeting of the Estonian and China Joint Commission on Trade and Economic Cooperation that took place just a couple of weeks ago in Beijing. However, today I would like to focus my speech on broader scope on EU-China trade relations. For us, being part of the EU doesn't only mean enjoying advantages of doing business in EU single market. EU trade policy provides a solid framework for securing greater market access for European business abroad as well. EU trade agreements offer additional support in entering global markets for companies. Many of them are small and medium-sized, coming from small countries like Estonia. EU is the world's largest exporter of goods and services. China is already a world leader in trade. China's trading activities account some 13% of world's total growth for the past decade. We should make the most of these opportunities. Trade can certainly play a key role in helping Europe to bring more prosperity to our continent. More market openness, creation of rule-based trading system would further underpin an ambitious agenda for reshape the Chinese economy announced by President Xi Jinping at the third plenum in November 2013. Economists expect that between now and 2030, 90% of world growth will come from outside of EU, mostly in emerging Asia. In this context, the success of Chinese market will have a direct impact on the prosperity in EU as well. It is clear that our trade and investment relationship remains an essential source of mutual benefit. China is already Europe's second biggest trade partner. Goods and services traded between the EU and China are worth over 1 billion every day. Europe's exports of goods and services to China more than tripled over the last decade. The Chinese investment in EU more than quadrupled during 2012, presenting a new structural trend. Some 6 million people traveled between EU economies and China last year. However, there is certainly a room for doing more, especially considering the size of the two respective economies. Despite all these already impressive figures, our mutual investment levels are lagging much behind our potential. According to Eurostat data, China's engagement remains very small, accounting for 2.6% of total FDI or foreign direct investment flows into the EU. Well, it was 2012 numbers, but I think it's true today as well. China's share of European outward FDI flows stays around 15%. What are the reasons? The World Bank and OECD for FDI restrictiveness indexes point to China's joint venture requirements, equity caps, local content requirements, and particular burdensome to investors. From other side, it's certainly confusing to China investors to deal with 27 existing bilateral investment treaties between China and EU member states. In addition, these agreements are no longer compatible with current investment levels and in economic reality in respective countries. Therefore, we cannot take it for granted that our investment relationship will become an economic success story. We must take the right steps to ensure mutual growth and of investment. To tap into this potential to the benefit of both sides, the launch of negotiations of comprehensive EU-China investment agreement was announced at the last EU-China summit held in November 2013. The main purpose of the negotiations is progressive abolition of restrictions on trade and foreign direct investments. Once it enters into force, the new agreement will give boost to investments in three ways: provide better access for foreign investors to China's market, but also Chinese counterparts would be more encouraged to invest to Europe. It will mean that European and Chinese firms would have equivalent access to each other's markets. Secondly, companies operating in Europe and China would be able to work on a more level playing field. There will be more legal certainty for investment in both directions, better standards of investment protection. And thirdly, modern legal framework will replace 27 existing bilateral investment treaties. Once set for rules, it will bring new clarity to Chinese investors who consider entering into the European market. The work is ongoing. Negotiators met actually last week in Brussels for the sixth time. With the upcoming EU-China summit in view, the European side is certainly ready to step up its efforts to achieve meaningful and ambitious results. We hope that this approach will be reciprocated by the Chinese side as well. The agreement will have full potential to pave the way to broader and more ambitious process towards a deep and comprehensive free trade agreement, as stated in EU-China 2020 strategic agenda for cooperation. In the meantime, there is of course many more areas where we could find better ways to cooperate in order to exchange our mutual trade relationship. The EU records a significant trade deficit with China. One of the reasons is more integrated state of global economy, but it is also due to some important market access barriers in China. In this way, liberalization alone is not enough. Let me give a few examples. Innovation is of key interest to both economies. In Europe, we are ready to embrace technological change leading to more electronic trade. We want to be a competitive edge in innovative, high-value products. But EU firms might be still hesitant to invest in China in light of new digital trade barriers like localization or technology appropriation. EU-China bilateral trade of services amounts only 1/10 total trade in goods, and the EU export of services to China only amount 2% of EU exports of goods. It remains an area full of potential if we could open our markets more. It remains difficult for European companies to access Chinese market in the area of public procurement. In principle, only Chinese companies are allowed to bid in public tenders, and foreign ones are only allowed under exceptions. We need more open procurement rules as well. So we must double our efforts to create more openness and more opportunities for our companies and people. Europe and China would do it in many ways, including through multilateral, plurilateral negotiations in WTO as well. For example, EU and China have progressively built a useful cooperation in intellectual property rights in the form of structured dialogue and a working group involving industry. The EU and China are also aiming to conclude as soon as possible an agreement of protection of geographical indicators. Under this agreement, ex officio protection and enforcement of both sides, wine, spirits, agricultural products and foodstuff will be ensured. We also appreciate constructive dialogue with China related to ICT matters. Here the EU stands ready to share its experiences in dealing with information security related issues without creating market access problems. Similarly, China and the EU could work together in the negotiations for plurilateral trade and services agreement within the WTO. The EU is ready to support China's application to join the talks. Work continues on China's accession to WTO government procurement agreement, and we hope to be able to achieve the real progress there in the near future. I'm confident that we can do all that if we work together. As Confucius said, the superior man aims at harmony, but not at uniformity. With no doubt, we will be able to find harmonious and mutually acceptable solutions that will change our trade relationship, encourage our business, and brings more prosperity to our people. I thank you very much for your attention.